as my desires begin to manifest and unfold, I sometimes get anxiety, not anxiety, I don't know the word, but I see them starting to unfold, I get excited, and then they sort of slow down, manifesting.
Well, now let's talk about this, because you're really going to like this. We haven't spoken this in this way before, but then we haven't come to the place that we'd already come to before you said that before either. In other words, we just laid a really good new basis to understand this question in a new way. You're going to feel it in just a moment here. So, if it is true, and it is, that as a problem is coming into focus, a solution is too, then isn't it equally true that as a solution is in focus, that an equal problem is in focus too? In other words, have you ever seen a sound wave? Or a light wave, or any kind of vibrational wave? There's two sides to the wave, aren't there? In other words, the wave, it has an equivalent. It can be small and it can be large, but it's equivalent in either case. So when you knew what you didn't want, and now you know what you do want, so life is moving forward. Now, maybe on another subject, you're more focused on the negative side of the wave than you are the positive side of the wave. So maybe you've tuned yourself negatively. Let's back up. Here'll be an easier way to hear it. You can't set your radio dial on 6:30 a.m. and hear what's being broadcast on 98.7 FM. Frequencies have to match up. The transmitter and the receiver have to be in sync. So let's say that you have several subjects that you are focused upon, and on one particular subject that you've wanted a lot about, you now have managed for a little bit of time to focus more inside the vortex, and so now things are moving along for you in a better way. But because you're not really yet completely at one with maintaining your inside the vortex vibration, occasionally you slip off into another vibration. And when you do, you now have access to the other side, the not good feeling side of that wave. Doesn't that make sense to you? A lot of times people say, I'm afraid to let myself want something because I will be so disappointed if it doesn't come. Well, what that is that's an awareness that I want that and I don't want the opposite of it. But the fact that I really, really, really want it means I really, really, really don't want the opposite of it. And frankly, I was happier when I sort of wanted it and sort of didn't want the opposite of it. When I sort of wanted it, then I could be sloppy in my thinking and it wasn't painful. But now I really want it. When I'm sloppy with my thinking, it's painful. And that's what makes people say, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. As if it has to go bad. I just know it's going to go bad. It always goes bad for me. And we say, it depends on where you're focused. The potential for wondrous or awful things is yours in every moment. And it all depends on where you've trained yourself. So now, think of different people you know, or different segments of society that you know, and think about what their waves are like. In other words, there are some people that don't let themselves dream big ever because they don't want the other side of it. And there are people who dream so big, who are sloppy in their thinking, that live really awful things. Isn't it remarkable how many really, really famous people at what seems to be the top of their game crash and burn so badly? And doesn't it make sense to you now that you understand the wave? So then you say, okay, I sort of get this. And I've decided not to be a deliberate creator after all. I'm going to play it safer. I'm just going to want a little. And we say, we should have told you sooner, but you now know too much. You can't go back. Life is parlaying you into fantastic things, you see. So what we're really talking about here is you got to focus. You got to focus, because what's coming to you is coming in response to your allowance. And here's the thing that makes what we just said to you interesting and funny, but different than the way we were playing with it. And here's what we mean by this. You've already played your hand. You've already been living your life. You've already been asking and asking and asking and asking and asking and asking and asking. In other words, you've already put who you really are over here in this vortex of creation. And you really have no choice other than to get up to speed with who you are. So what you just said to us is, well, I've been letting myself get up to speed with who I am, but now I'm worried because I can't maintain it. And we say, you got to practice that. You'll crash and burn a few times, but all that'll do is make you more determined to focus until you'll reach the place where it will matter to you that you focus inside the vortex. Give us more.
I don't have little desires. I have huge desires.
Yes.
So I see them starting to happen. And
Yes.
then I have friends and family start calling me and we're so excited, and can you give us an update? And I try to just stay away because I can feel their anxiety.
Here's the
success.
thing. This will help you a lot. If anybody's having an anxiety, it's because they're looking for the manifestational evidence. And this is a really good idea for you to hold relative to where you're at. This is the precise piece that will soothe this for you. This vortex of creation, it's the vibrational foundation for all of the good that manifests. And when you have full view of it, that's when you feel utter faith, because that faith is knowledge in something not yet seen. And the reason you can't see it is because it's pre-manifested. But there is so much that is wonderful that is pre-manifested that you can feel. Did you get that? Now, for somebody outside the vortex, what they heard us just say was, you have to trust us, and we've just got a different version of the fairy tale for you. And so we can understand why from outside the vortex, skepticism and cynicism and pessimism would be something that you are feeling. But if you can accept the reality of this vortex of creation, and you can realize that when your friends and family and well-wishers are coming to you, you can't give them the evidence yet, but you can give them your emotional, vibrational version of it. And so what they're reaching for from you is your feeling of elation, your feeling of optimism, your feeling of knowing. Have you ever been part of something where there was a leader who knew even before there was manifestation, and that leader just knew so clearly that you knew too, and couldn't you ride the current of that knowing? And weren't there always those naysayers who couldn't see it and couldn't feel it, who were determined that it wasn't going to come to be? But because someone knew, and because you knew they knew, then you knew a little too? That's the best that you can do for those people, because almost everybody is demanding. That's why science and medicine moves slowly forward, is because they need to see it before they believe it. And that's backwards. You got to believe it before you can see it. You have to believe it in order to get in the vortex, and you've got to get in the vortex before you can see it, before you can rendezvous with the circumstances and events that are going to bring the manifestation of it about, you see. It's really interesting. This reality that humans claim and cling to is such an arbitrary thing. You are billions of people with billions of different perspectives of life experience, literally creating billions of different worlds, and yet pretending that it's all one big world that you're all sharing equally. And it's not even close to that, you see. You are on these vibrational islands with law of attraction spinning on your individual vortices, giving you exactly what you are a vibrational match to. So the first thing that we would say to you is, if we were standing in your physical shoes, would leave them all out of the equation, well-wishers or not. Because if you need to prove to them what they need to see, then they've got you focused outside the vortex, and that's why you feel a diminishment of your joy. So somehow you have to convince them that you're onto something, and you know you're onto something. We know that they are well-meaning, and we know that you know that they are well-meaning. We're just saying, you got to do what's easiest to keep you focused in the vortex. We want you to know that you have the ability, little by little, we'll give you lots of ways to do it, of moving yourself deliberately, and it takes a little bit of effort. Effort, what is effort? Effort is something you do to overcome resistance. If there's no resistance, it requires no effort at all. So in the first, when there's resistance, a little effort to get into this vortex. But as you begin recognizing that you're in there because you feel good, and then milking it once you're in there because it feels so good to stay. As you begin practicing the vibration of who you really are, the vibration of love, the vibration of appreciation, as you take the bounce more often and you look for what you're wanting to see, as you train yourself into the frequency of who you really are, you're going to begin to experience what we are calling real-time manifestation, where in the moment that your life presents a question, your life will present an answer. Now, this happens to you often. You just don't know that it is. It's happening to you on every subject that you don't have resistance. In other words, you're driving down the freeway, you felt this yourself, and you actually know what that guy over there is going to do. His erratic behavior is on your radar before he even does it. Don't you? It happens to all of you all the time. You sensed it, you knew it, and you made a decision and you acted accordingly, and you avoided a potential problem because the problem and the solution occurred to you simultaneously, because you were living real time, because you were not in resistance on that subject in that moment. The cells of your body are doing it all day, every day. You have in your body right now the potential, the probability, the wherewithal to experience in great detail every horrible disease known to man and many not yet known by man. But you don't experience them because the cells of your body know what they're doing. And for the most part, even though you're negative, you're worrying and fussing about this and that and the other. You have set up a reasonable amount of resistance. Don't you think it's interesting that even though you have the best medicine ever, the scientists that are really after it, a medical system that is evolved enormously, there is more disease present on your planet today than ever before. Don't you find that interesting, at least? And we want you to understand that you have the potential, you as individuals, and the collective consciousness will follow as enough of you are understanding it. You have the ability to ingest something or be exposed to something. You don't want to live in a cave. There's mold in there anyway, and bats. You can't protect yourself from what's out there. So as you're out there being exposed to it, don't you love knowing that in the moment that you are exposed and the consciousness of your cell recognizes it, which is immediate, that there is an equivalent bounce that is offered, and that in your basking and appreciating and loving, there's no resistance, and so there's no effort required for your cells to move themselves into balance? Don't you love how your planet balances itself? You freak out, there's an earthquake, and we say, good job, planet Earth, keeping itself in balance. You don't have earthquakes, you don't have volcanoes, you don't have a slight shifting of the pole every now and again. You cease to be. But you do have all those things because your planet knows how to keep itself in balance. And so does your physical body. And when you get out of the way, when you are no longer harboring these ridiculous, really, by comparison, prejudices against things, when you are no longer pushing against what you do not want, and you are thinking more of what you do want, training yourself into the vibrational equivalency of who you really are, now you get to live life the way you've intended it. You're in that place where in your alignment, in your vortex of creation, other cooperative components who think like you and desire like you and know like you are gathered, and together you cooperatively take thought beyond that which it has been before. That's what these gatherings are, you see. We come together with all of the detail of the life experience that is you, but we bring something unique to the table. We come as full representation of who you really are in your vortex. And we hold our attention so significantly on who you really are, better stated, who you have already become, that we make it impossible for you to deviate from the vibration of the wholeness that is you if you're paying attention even a little bit. And that's what teaching is. That's what upliftment is. That's what healing is. That's who you all are. You have come to uplift, to teach through the clarity of your example, to train yourself into vibrational alignment with the whole of you.